Hey everybody, this is Desmond's Snow Dog Training. I just wanted to talk really quickly about excitement in dogs and how to know when a dog is excited. And obviously, when a dog is flipping out and going to the end of the leash, that your dog is clearly like going. If your dog is going ape shit, then obviously it's excited. But the thing is there's also subtle signs. Earlier, than that point. At that point, it's already like the dog is already going ape shit. You know what I mean? Like that, and you shouldn't let it get to that point. Really, it should be more along the lines of like the dog. There's like a build up to that point most of the time, right? So the dog just like it's not like I mean it can go from like 0 to 100 really quick, but the thing is that like most people don't really know the signs. You know what I mean? They don't know the signs of a dog getting excited, and they don't know what can excite a dog, right? So that's the thing is, and also just as like a quick like side note to this, it's like you don't want an excited dog. You might think you want an excited dog, but dealing with an excited dog all the time is a fucking nuisance, and it's why dogs get given up. It's why dogs get killed. So yeah, you don't want a dog that's excited, and the reason why an excited dog can sometimes equal a dead dog, unfortunately, is just because a lot of people, it's like we live in a human world, and you don't want to play with the dog all the time, right? So if you have a dog that's really excited that wants to play all the time, right, and doesn't know how to play in the right way, then you will end up with a fucking like a nuisance in the house. You know what I mean? That will just like kind of uproot your, or not uproot, but like will just terrorize your house and just like cause a tornado all the time, get into the trash, get into chew on things, bother you all the time, put paws on you, and just be generally annoying. And you don't want that. You want a dog that's calm and submissive, just chilling out. You know what I mean? A lot of people seem to think that an excited dog is a happy dog, and that's not necessarily the case. A lot of the times, an excited dog is more stressed out than a calm dog, right? And the reason why, and also excitement doesn't mean that the dog, I mean, like I know I already said, but basically excitement doesn't mean the dog is happy. Excitement just means that the dog is excited, right? And there is a difference, right? And it's just sort of like, they aren't like us. They don't experience excitement like us. They don't experience joy like us or anything. They're really nothing like us, right? And that's the problem, is that we humanize dogs all the time. But anyways, basically, in order to know when a dog is excited and what is exciting the dog, you really need to pay attention to the dog's body language and what it's doing. Tail wagging, scanning, tracking, and by scanning and tracking, what I mean, scanning is when a dog is like looking around, like erratically, kind of just generally like erratic behavior in a dog. That means the dog's excited by something, right? And that could be anything, right? There's so many different things that can excite a dog. Just scent alone can excite a dog. If the dog smells something new, that can excite it. But basically, if a dog is tracking, like if their nose is on the ground, then they could be excited by that. They could get excited by that. Like, for example, I just took Koshka out on a walk, and there was some dogs in front of us, and Koshka does get excited by dogs when he sees them on the street, right? So he saw the dogs, right? And then, of course, that got him excited. I mean, that's to be expected, right? So what I did was I had him sit and waited until he was calm, and then we continued on the walk. And then when we got to where the dogs were, their scent, he picked up their scent, and that got him excited again. So then again, I had him sit and chill out, right? And then once he was calm again, then we finished out the walk, and he was fine for the rest of the walk, right? But basically, that's the thing, is that like your dog scanning and like kind of being like frantic, like especially looking behind themselves, like if you have them at sit or something and they're looking behind themselves or something, they're just like looking. What they're doing is they're looking for something to like go after, like just to go for, right? Because their first instinct, is to go run after whatever's exciting them, right? So if it's a squirrel, if it's a ball, if it's a dog, they just want to run after it, right? So, and you don't want that. You want the dog to be calm. You want the dog to be confident that, that you're the confident like leader. And yeah, so basically those are like just some things that you want to look out for when your dog is just like your dog. You might think that your dog is just okay, but that if your dog is like the type of dog that flips out on the end of the leash and you don't know why it's flipping out at the end of the leash, a lot of the times, you could take your dog into a new environment and then that will be exciting for them. New places are exciting for a dog, right? And that includes out on walks and stuff. So even if you're used to walking with your dog, right? If your dog is flipping out and going at the end of the leash over something, right? Then that means that your dog just isn't ready. If you take your dog outside and then your dog starts flipping out as soon as you go take it outside on a walk, then your dog just isn't ready to be taken outside yet. And that's another thing is a lot of people seem to emphasize like exercise over a dog and not training. Training is the most important thing for your dog. And if your dog is unable to go outside without like being overly excited, then your dog isn't ready to go outside. You can walk your dog in your house. You can put a leash on your dog and walk them around inside the house first and get them really calm and like stable inside, walking with you at heel or whatever. A lot of people, you should teach the heel command, but you don't necessarily need to, I guess. But your dog, I mean, like, there's no reason not to teach your dog to heel. Your dog should be walking right beside you. You should be walking with your dog. Your dog shouldn't be pulling you places. It's just not an enjoyable thing for you, right? And then you're also sending the wrong message to the dog. When your dog is walking in front of you, you're telling the dog that it is the leader of the pack. And that's not, you don't want the dog to think that, right? Because then it's just going to start taking liberties in other areas and it's going to be a nuisance in other areas and give you issues there too. So you really want to be consistent about this and just not allow the dog to lead you anywhere, right? You are the one that calls the shots. You're the one that says, okay, we're walking here, right? We're not going where you want, we're going where I want to go. Right, so, and that's really crucial, right? But essentially, in terms of like training a dog to actually walk outside, right? If say your dog can't walk outside without going bananas, right? Then you essentially need to take you need to take some steps, like take a step back and go literally walk your dog inside the house, right? Like if your dog is calm at one point but not calm at another point, take it to the point where it's calm and then work it in that calm environment and really just exacerbate that calmness. Really get the calmness to be the desirable behavior, because you want your dog to be calm and compliant on the street, right? So, and then once your dog is really stable in the already calming environment for the dog, once they're really stable out there, then it's baby steps. So basically, like all of the lead up to the walk is really important. You shouldn't be saying like, do you want to go for a walk? Are you ready to go? Don't be exciting your dog like that. Don't indicate that it's a big deal to the dog, because then of course the dog is going to treat it like it's a big deal and flip out, right? So you essentially, when you get the dog to the door, you might open the door and literally just hold the door open and have the dog sit there, right? And then when the dog is sitting there, wait until the dog is completely calm before going through the door, and then you and the dog both go out the door at the same time, right? You have the dog at heel and you have it heel and go outside the door, right? And then if the second that the dog starts getting excited, if it walks outside, like if it starts getting really excited, go back inside. Just go back inside, end it right there, right? And then just put the dog up and then come back out in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that, and try it again, right? And then eventually over time, when your dog, as long as if your dog is manageable though, you do want to work your dog through the excitement. So what I mean is if you take your dog outside and then they start going to the end of the leash, flipping out, barking, whining, you name it, if they're just overly excited is the second you get outside the door, they're not ready for that environment. And you need to take them back inside and work them inside more, right? However, if the dog this is why we teach commands, by the way. But basically, when you teach the dog the commands, then you can speak to the dog in a language that they understand, right? And you can work them through the excitement, right? So if your dog is excited, which is fine, they get excited over things, then you need to work them through that excitement. Like, for example, Koshka was really, really, really crazy in terms of the cats, right? He would want to eat the cats. Like, he's just a high prey drive dog, right? So what I did was I had the cats in the room And because I can speak to Koshka in a certain language, I can have him heel, I can have him sit, I can have him lay down, he knows how to shake, he knows how to roll over, he knows the bridge command, he knows all these things, right? I can speak to him in that language in front of the cats, and then he will, over time, this took a while, this took like a few weeks, right? But then because I could speak to him in that language, he understood that he's not supposed to go after the cats. He's supposed to listen to me regardless of whether the cats are there or not, right? And that's what's so important, and that's why you teach the commands to your dog. So if your dog isn't walking, if your dog is flipping out on a leash, like going outside, when the second you go outside, your dog is flipping out, you should teach commands to your dog and you should train them through that excitement, right? There is obviously scenarios where the dog is completely not functioning properly at all and you cannot get the dog to listen. And in those environments, you need to avoid them for now. That eventually you'll get to a point where where the dog is in a manageable state and you can still communicate with them. And they are going to screw up and you're going to have to get them into the right position and stuff like that. They're going to they're going to get off their mark or whatever. You'll put them at sit somewhere and then they see a dog and then they want to go after the dog, right? When they do that, as long as they aren't going completely bananas, right, then you can manage them and get them back on their mark, right? And then over time, eventually, whatever is stimulating them will just not be that big of a deal because you've told them that even if that is stimulating, what you need to do is to listen to me, right? So that's kind of the general philosophy. There's a lot more information on this, and there's a lot of like loaded stuff that I talked about that I didn't really like elaborate on, right? So like talking about the leadership stuff and all that, and also talking about commands. There's more stuff that I could talk about in terms of the commands, but this in general, in terms of excitement, like if you can't get your dog to go outside on a walk without flipping out, that's why, right? So yeah. Anyways, I'm Desmond Snow Dog Training. I'm a dog trainer in the Pacific Northwest area. I will train any dog, any size, any breed. They can all be trained to do the same shit, and they can all learn commands. It doesn't matter how far gone you think your dog is. You can train them to be calm and compliant, and you can teach them to be a good citizen in the human world. So, yeah. Don't work with food trainers, by the way, because like I said, you don't want the dog to be excited. And if you are working with a food trainer, you're conditioning your dog to be excited, right? You also condition your dog to be excited when you pet them, and you condition your dog to be excited when you like take them through a door without them being calm, right? So yeah, but without going too much further into it, because I don't want to ramble on forever. Yeah, that is about as in-depth as I can go without going too in-depth and without this video dragging on forever, because there's a shit load of information, right? And that's why dog trainers exist, is because there's a lot of information on this stuff, and a lot of people don't understand how dogs work. Most people don't understand how dogs work, right? Most dog owners have no clue how their dog, like the signs with their dog, they don't understand anything, and they have problems with their dog that they're just dealing with that they don't necessarily have to deal with, right? But they just, because they're lazy and they don't want to actually train the dog, they just let the dog do things. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, well, that's just how that dog is. But the reality is that all dogs can be trained to be like what people would consider a police dog to be. And it doesn't take that much work. I mean, it does take work, right? But it's not as like glaring in terms of like, you know, a lot of the time it's like after the dog is trained, like you have like the basic obedience commands in the dog, then you can pretty much, like, it's just smooth sailing from there. It's just maintenance work. If that's what you want, you could just do maintenance work. You don't even have to train. You don't have to teach your dog anything more than the basic obedience commands if you didn't want to. You don't even need to teach your dog to retrieve if you didn't want to. You should teach your dog to retrieve. It's a fun way to interact with your dog. You can exercise the dog, you can whatever, but you don't necessarily have to do that. If you're cool just with the basic obedience commands, you know, sit down, whoa, here, kennel, place, right? Then you can, if you just teach those commands, then you're good. Your dog will be calm inside, and your dog will be calm on walks. And if you have your typical house dog, then cool. You know what I mean? But it's also cool to teach your dog retrieves, because then you can actually interact with your dog and play with your dog in a way that's healthy, right? So yeah, but basically, that's all I really have to say on the matter. Um, Contact me if you're in the Pacific Northwest area and you need your dog trained. I can get your dog trained up right, and I can get your dog properly compliant and calm to the point where you'll be able to deal with them, and you can take them for walks and you can just enjoy living with your dog instead of having this like little like furry demon that is just like walking all over you and you just can't handle it. You know what I mean? And then you give the dog up and because it's too much to handle, or you give it to someone else because it's too much to handle, and and that's obviously you probably love your dog, but that's the thing is just love is not enough for your dog. You need to train your dog. You can't just love the dog. You have to train the dog. It's very important, right? Dogs aren't like cats. Dogs aren't like birds. They aren't like goldfish. They're a very high maintenance pet, right? So everybody should be really prepared for that. And that's not to say that cats and birds aren't high maintenance. They are, but they're different than dogs, right? So it's important for people to realize this. And I only say this just because I care about dogs a lot. So yeah, but that's pretty much all I really wanted to say on the matter. I just want everybody to see Koshka. He's in the kennel right now, upside down, being a total goober. But yeah, so I'm Desmond Snow Dog Training. I hope everybody got some good information out of this. I hope if you are having problems with walking your dog, I hope this helps. And yeah, if anybody needs their dogs trained in the Pacific Northwest area, I'm totally available for that. And I can do standard board and train stuff or private lessons, or I can give you a consultation over the phone. Just anything. And also you can leave, comments down below, although honestly, reading a sentence online isn't going to fix your dog. So if that's what you're doing, if you're going online and looking for a magical, one trick to fix all problems with your dog, that doesn't exist. There's a lot of information that you need to learn, and you should learn it from someone who knows what the fuck they're talking about. And there's a lot of misleading dog trainers out there. You should be talking to an obedience trainer that does not use food for positive reinforcement. There's a lot of different ways that you can use positive reinforcement, and there can be food trainers out there that are good, but in general, you don't want to use food. So, yeah. Hope everybody enjoys, has a good day, and I will see you guys in the next one.